Robert, I want to start by asking you give me a sense of how you were feeling when you found out that you had this part. You had to kind of figure out how you're going to get into the headspace of Eric and working under David.
I was really shocked. It kind of came out of the blue. And it's funny because I think that's what happened to David. It kind of it's not the most famous of DeLillo's novels, and the script as well. It seems like one of those scripts which you find, and if David wasn't attached to it, I'd read it and be like, well, this is amazing, but it's never going to get made. And so it's everything about it was quite shocking.
Were you intimidated by just the dialogue, what you had to wrap your head around?
A little bit, but it's so much less intimidating. It's less intimidating than reading something which is terrible. That's much more intimidating. At least you know that you don't have to totally reinvent something to make it good. You just have to do it. You just have to do it to its full potential.
Do it justice. David, I want to get a sense. When was it that you realized this is my next film? I know you were given the novel, and so at what point did you? Okay, now I.
Yeah. Well, of course, there are two levels of that, or maybe three or four. The first level is that you want to do it, and I read the book and I phoned the producer Paolo Branco and I said, yeah, I do want to do this. You're right. You were right to give this to me. However, that doesn't mean it's happening, because I had to write a script and feel that the script was doable, and that was the next phase. And then you have to get it financed, and that's not easy. And the more unusual and difficult and challenging the movie is, the harder it is to get it financed. And speaking of the financial crisis that the movie discusses on a certain level, that has made it harder to get unusual movies financed. Actually, big movies are having trouble getting financed as well. There's just not as much money around, and there's not sort of crazy money in the sense that people are willing to take chances.
So you knew it was going to be a challenging project to take on. So what was it that spoke to you that it was worth taking?
Yeah, well, Don's writing is fantastic. I mean, as I say, it's the dialogue first of all, which carries everything, and it is the structure of the movie and the characters. And it's incredibly funny, incredibly profound, incredibly adept, and very philosophical. I mean, that you don't get that very often. I mean, there's a lot of philosophy discussed in the movie in a very intriguing, funny, dynamic way, but it really is heavy-duty philosophy, talking about, the relationship of capitalism to the future and how capitalism has owned the future, and the future has become an asset time, and yet it's still it's part of a movie rather than a philosophy course. So that's all very unusual.
Now, Robert, what did David do to help you get ready for this role, to get into Eric's headspace?
I mean, we didn't talk about it that much before we started shooting, but
really, he just kind of threw you into the limo and said, "Make it good."
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
Pretty much.
But yeah, I mean, everyone who's worked with you is kind of saying, for the first week, it's sort of feeling things out. I mean, a lot of directors say that they like to work and they like to let the movie find itself organically, but they're just making it up because they've already written a bunch of storyboards and stuff. But with this, I think it was the rigorously sticking to the script and not thinking that that's changeable allowed it to develop quite organically. Because if you keep changing what the skeleton of the movie is, then it's not like you're finding anything. You just keep inventing. You're just drifting. But if you really are strict with keeping the script as it is, then you can find out what it really means. You start analyzing properly.
So what do you think Cosmopolis is saying about money, about capitalism?
I don't really think it's saying much about capitalism. I mean, I think it's saying, if there's any kind of comment, my first reaction to it was kind of an absurd comedy. I mean, it could be like a Dada thing, like if it was a little bit more obscure, but like, I never thought of it as any kind of comment in terms of capitalism being good or bad. It's just a comment saying that the world is, it's saying that people aren't recognizing the world as what it is. People are living in a strange reality.
And Dave, did you give your actors help in terms of explain the dialogue, or did you really want to try and figure this out? Because I mean,
No,
I read that
yeah.
you didn't want there to be a cause and effect. You really wanted to be around, just I guess letting the words speak for themselves.
Yeah, well, I really think, I mean, if you've got great dialogue and you've got a great actor, the actor speaks the dialogue and it immediately manifests itself. The truth of it, the force of it is right there. I don't really, though I'm very capable of being very analytical and abstract about things and even my own work after the fact, it's not how I make movies now. And I don't think it really helps an actor to analyze dialogue as though it's a philosophical problem, let's say, or a social problem, when in fact people don't speak that way. They just speak out of the moment and the context that they're in and so on. And so I think it's good for an actor to to be real that way, to speak the way people really speak, with not more thought or analysis than a normal person would have.
And Robert, how did you kind of pace yourself? Because there's a stillness to your performance, but then at the end, like I'm thinking of that scene in the alleyway where it's almost like we've seen a different kind of Eric. There's another guy kind of coming out, and so how did you kind of calibrate that?
Just the script. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of, it all felt quite, for whatever reason, every day something felt very obvious to do. It never felt like anything was particularly forced or you'd had to plan anything. And in a lot of ways, some of it was really strange. Like there's a scene in The Barbers when I'm talking to the driver, Ibrahim, and I was just watching that the other day and thinking like, wow, I put a lot of emphasis onto this one line. I have no idea why, and it gives it some kind of meaning afterwards.
Yeah.
And just quickly, you shot this digitally.
Yes.
We've been hearing a lot about the death of film, of celluloid. How do you feel about some people saying that, celluloid as we know it has maybe like 2 years left and going into a mainly digital existence?
Film is dead.
Yeah.
It's gone. It just is. And I don't miss it.
You don't want for it?
No. Other than the smell, I do like the smell of film. But I think you could have an air freshener, like a Kodak air freshener in your car, or maybe a Fujifilm if you prefer that, maybe Agfa film even. But really, it's long gone. I mean, it's been long gone for stills. It's been hugely long gone for audio. On film sets, audio has the sound has been digital for years, and the film is just hung on by the skin of its chemical teeth. And it's, I don't miss it because the new cameras are fantastic. I mean, they are better than film. I have to say, they're more sensitive, but the colors are deep. All the things that it took a while to get to, the video look and so on, that's all gone. I mean, it's very filmic. All the things we love about film, you can get with digital technology now.